Have you ever watched your American dream suburb turn into a police state run by a floral-dressed dictator? What if one woman's obsession with rules targeted your perfectly legal government vehicles and labeled you a criminal? And how satisfying is it when that power-tripping Karen finally meets someone who turns her own system against her until it crushes her? Picture this. Harmony Haven, one of those cookie-cutter American neighborhoods where every lawn is shaved to military precision and the welcome signs promise peaceful living. Peaceful my ass. It was a velvet-gloved dictatorship run by Patricia Wilkins. Everyone called her Pat, but I quickly learned she was the Karen who made other Karens look like amateurs. She ruled the HOA like it was her personal kingdom, clipboard in one hand, floral muumuu billowing like a battle flag, and a smile so fake it could curdle milk. I'd moved here after 25 years as a U.S. ambassador, thinking I'd finally trade war zones for backyard barbecues. Wrong. Those two sleek black sedans in my driveway, not some shady Uber fleet like Pat immediately decided. They were official diplomatic armored vehicles registered through the State Department, basically rolling embassies on American soil. But to her, they screamed, commercial eyesore lowering property values. The first shot came on a lazy Tuesday afternoon. I was trimming my roses, nothing fancy, just trying to blend in, when Pat marched across my lawn like she owned the deed. Her muumuu flapped in the breeze, clipboard clutched to her chest like a holy relic. Mr. Voss, she cooed in that syrupy voice that dripped fake concern. We simply cannot have this. The covenants are crystal clear. No commercial fleets, no in-home businesses, and certainly no eyesores turning our street into a parking lot for whatever this is. She jabbed a manicured nail at my sedans, her eyes narrowing like I'd parked tanks. Neighbors peeked from curtains, already whispering. She'd already started the rumor mill. That new guy Ethan is running some illegal operation out of his garage. Slandered before I even unpacked. I kept my face neutral, the kind of calm I'd learned negotiating with actual dictators. Inside, a slow burn. This wasn't about cars. This was a bully testing if I'd fold. Pat, I said evenly, those are personal diplomatic vehicles. No logos, no ladders, nothing commercial. Check Section 7 of the bylaws yourself. She waved it off with a laugh that sounded like nails on a chalkboard. Oh, honey, the rules apply to everyone. We can't let one bad apple spoil the bunch. 48 hours to move them, or we impound, at your expense, of course. Storage fees are astronomical. She spun on her heel, muumuu trailing like a victory cape, leaving me standing there with that cold, quiet fury building. The kind that doesn't yell. It plans. 3 days later, the certified letter arrived. Thick envelope, HOA logo embossed like it was official government mail. Fines, $100 per vehicle per day, retroactive. Then photos of my driveway circled in red marker like enemy targets. Pat's cover letter? A masterpiece of passive-aggressive nonsense. Your refusal to comply shows a blatant disregard for community harmony. I spread the papers on my desk, the same one where I'd once drafted cables that moved nations, and laughed bitterly. Here I was, a guy who'd stared down warlords, getting lectured by a woman whose biggest battle was beige conformity. Dark humor hit hard. She'd invented de facto commercial presence because the sedans were too shiny and identical. Like the bylaws suddenly cared about aesthetics over facts. I could have ended it with one call to the State Department, flashing diplomatic plates, and watching her deflate. But no, that would make me the outsider crushing the little guy. Pat wanted a public war where she played defender of the realm. I'd give her one, on her turf, using her precious rules. While I waited for her next move, I started walking the neighborhood. Not for exercise. Recon. Casual chats over mailboxes turned into gold. Old Mr. Henderson, tending his roses, whispered over iced tea how Pat fined him $25 for a tiny garden gnome his late wife loved. Unapproved ornament violating aesthetic harmony. He paid, then got hit again for not proving removal. Fine snowballed to a lean over a ceramic dwarf. She broke my spirit, he muttered, eyes wet. Sarah across the street confessed her kid's sidewalk chalk drawings earned a violation for defacing common property. We paint over it now, she said, voice tight. Teaching them creativity is illegal feels wrong. Then Mark, the quiet corporate lawyer down the block, spilled at a block party. Board meetings at weird hours, dissent shut down, dues doubled while pool maintenance tanked. She counts on people just paying up. Cheaper than fighting. The real gut punch came when I dug into public records. HOA filings were a mess. Big payments to administrative consultants registered to Pat's brother-in-law. Dues skyrocketed, services tanked. Classic self-dealing, hidden in plain sight. This wasn't just a parking beef. Pat was a petty tyrant skimming the community piggy bank while preaching morals. My quiet anger turned steel. I wasn't defending two cars anymore. I was building a cage for the queen. I fired back with a certified letter of my own, polite, factual, citing bylaws word for word. No title dropping, no threats. Just facts. No violation occurred. Gave her an off-ramp. She didn't take it. Her reply? A tirade in bold, underlined caps, doubling fines to $200 a day because of my uncooperative attitude. The sheen and identical nature constitute a de facto commercial presence. Pure invention, the bureaucratic version of a kid making up rules mid-game. I chuckled darkly, laughing while seething at how one woman's clipboard had turned neighbors into terrified serfs. Time to play my game. I looped an embassy legal guy David Chin first, then hired HOA specialist Ben Carter. Classic. Ben grinned over my files. They always invent terms when facts fail. We mapped 2 tracks, freeze her fines with procedural motions, then go offensive on her pattern, selective enforcement, procedural tricks, those shady contracts. Ben's eyes lit up at the financial dirt. This isn't overreach. This is potential fraud. Goal. Not just your car's free. Remove her entirely. I left his office with clarity. Pat thought she was swatting a fly. She'd poked a hornet's nest. Neighbors started cracking under the weight. I hosted a low-key barbecue. Nothing flashy. Henderson brought his gnome story louder now. Sarah talked chalk. More families piled on. Garage doors open too long? Fine. Trash cans out an hour late. Violation. One couple got hit for tacky holiday lights that were just white strings. Pat's reign of beige terror had everyone walking on eggshells. Mark confirmed the board was her rubber stamp cronies. She operates in the gray, legal enough to scare, expensive enough to silence. My file grew. Affidavits, timelines, charts of missing money. The sedan sat untouched, but the real war was on. That's where the escalation hit its stride. Pat wasn't backing down. She was accelerating. My polite rebuttal only fueled her. Fines hit thousands. Threats of liens loomed, and the neighborhood buzzed with her whispers. Ethan thinks he's above us all. But cracks showed. People who'd paid up for years started eyeing me like maybe, just maybe, someone could fight back. I kept documenting every letter, every call, building that ironclad case. No rage, just patience. The same patience that had kept me alive in real crises. Pat's little kingdom was about to learn what happens when the bad apple bites back. The tow truck rumbled down our quiet street like a parade float from hell. Bright yellow, chains clanking, driver looking bored until Pat's golf cart pulled up behind it, her mobile throne, arms crossed, smug grin plastered on. Neighbors poured out, curtains twitching. This was her theater, public shaming of the guy who dared question the queen. Orders from the HOA, the driver grunted, hooking chains toward my sedans. Pat called out, voice dripping venom and glee. You were warned, Mr. Boss. Fines unpaid. Time for consequences. We can't have your little fleet ruining our standards. I stepped between him and the cars, voice calm but edged. There's a mistake here. These are protected diplomatic vehicles. Touch them, and you're interfering with U.S. government property. The driver blinked. Pat laughed shrilly. Oh, please, he's no diplomat. Just some retiree with fancy cars. Tow them, Jerry. But Jerry hesitated when I flashed my State Department ID and pointed at the D plates. Federal offense, sir. Call your boss. Pat's face twisted from triumph to rage as Jerry backed off, muttering about lawyers. 2 police cruisers rolled up, quiet notification protocol for diplomatic residents. Officers handled it smooth, one with me, the other shutting Pat down. Her voice pitched higher. This is HOA jurisdiction. You can't. The cop's low explanation about federal lines hit like a slap. Her color drained. The tow truck peeled out empty. Pat sat alone in her cart, spectacle ruined, power publicly neutered. Neighbors watched, not a rule breaker humbled, but a bully checked. I nodded once, went back to my roses. Battle won, but her humiliation guaranteed she'd get desperate. War intensified. That tow fiasco spread like wildfire. Pat's defender of standards narrative collapsed. Suddenly folks weren't scared to talk. I turned my backyard into strategy central, barbecue for the brave. Henderson, Sarah, Mark, a dozen more. Stories poured out. The gnome, the chalk, the garage finds, even one family dinged for their kid's lemonade stand. Unauthorized commercial activity on residential property. Dark laughs mixed with rage. Pat's absurdity was almost funny if it wasn't crushing lives. She picked us off one by one, Mark said. But going after you? Epic mistake. We compiled everything. My research on her self-dealing, the inflated contracts to family, dues doubling with zero improvements. This wasn't bullying anymore. It was embezzlement dressed in muumuu. We petitioned for a special meeting, 10% of owners, bylaws clear. Over 100 signatures in days. City got my diplomatic note too. Mayor's lawyer called in panic, damage control mode. Pressure mounted from all sides. Pat tried stalling, procedural nonsense, but Ben's threats forced her hand. Meeting night, the clubhouse packed, 200 people, air electric. Pat at the head table, pale and furious, launched into her victim's speech. I've sacrificed for this community. These malcontents don't respect rules. Crickets. Mark rose. Motion of no confidence in President Wilkins. Henderson seconded, voice steady. Debate exploded, stories, charts of missing funds projected. Pat pointed at me. This is all his fault. His arrogant car started it. I stood slow. You're right about one thing. It started with the cars, because you tried towing sovereign property, risking a federal incident. But what we found? Years of you enriching yourself while terrorizing us with made-up rules. This ends now. Vote. Near unanimous. No confidence passed. Audit demanded. Pat stormed out, dethroned in 1 hour. Applause shook the room. Her cronies scattered. The trap snapped shut. Weeks later, the forensic audit was brutal. Personal charges on HOA card, groceries, salon trips, even a cruise, buried as outreach. Kickbacks from family contracts. Over $100,000 gone. District attorney got the file. Charges, embezzlement, fraud. Pat's final desperate act? Thursday morning, her minivan screeched up, blocking my driveway. Spray can in hand, eyes wild. You ruined my community. She raised it toward the sedans. But federal agents and cops swarmed. My security detail had the alert. Federal felony, ma'am. Drop it. Handcuffs clicked. She sobbed as they led her away, no fight left. Just hollow defeat. The community healed fast. New board rewrote the worst bylaws. No more beige-only tyranny. Henderson's Gnome Committee approved tasteful statues. Sarah's kids chalked freely. Dues dropped, services improved. My sedans gleamed untouched. New neighbors moved in. Kids laughed, drawing dinosaurs on sidewalks. No violation notices. Mark waved on his jog. New artist in town. We chuckled. Peace wasn't ironic anymore. It was earned. Look, the real lesson? HOA Karens feed on silence and fear. Starve them with facts, patience, and unity. Document everything, rally quietly, and watch petty thrones crumble. Don't let clipboard queens steal your peace. Next time it could be your gnome or your kid's chalk. Stand up. Justice loves a paper trail.